Welcome everyone to the Lady Trucking CEO podcast. I am Camille Kitchener-Ellis, your host, and today we have an awesome guest that we're going to be talking with. She is a boss in her own right. She has an insurance company that caters to those of us here in the trucking industry. And so without further ado, I would like to have our guest, Ladda Hawkins, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. So my name is Ladda Hawkins, and I am a co-owner in a specific trucking insurance agency where the agency owners and our agency's name is Lovejoy Risk Management Corp. That really is to say that we're more than just an insurance provider, that we go into risk management. So we do education, consultations to make sure that you understand how your operational structure impacts your insurance rates. So that's what we do.
Okay, awesome. So how did you, okay, so right now, how long have you been running your insurance company? How long have you been?
So that's kind of that trick question, because it was one of those things that through a little bit of anger, frustration with another agency, we did the paperwork, right? So our paperwork date is almost 2 years old.
Okay.
But our operation date, when we finally had that boldness to say, you know what, just enough's enough, has only been since March of this year.
Wow. Okay. So all right. So take us back before before you got into having your own insurance company that caters to the trucking industry. Give us a little bit of backstory, like what led up to you deciding, you know what, let's do our own thing. So let's give us a little bit more of that backstory.
Sure, thank you. So it started with the opportunity. So my partner, who is my blood sister, she's been in insurance for the past 16, 17 years now. It's almost hard to count like exactly when she got deeper into it, because at first it was just a side hustle like myself. We both got our license through a company, I'm not going to name names, but through a company that kind of talks about life insurance, and they kind of promote it a little bit like an MLM. So we had an opportunity to get licensed in Louisiana that way, to where I didn't take it as serious because of kind of how I was introduced to it. She took it as a career opportunity, and she had went and found a job to work directly in the field for State Farm agents. So she stayed in this entire time, while I had got into education. And I have a whole nother story. I kind of been all over the place and stuff, but where we come together for trucking insurance is we saw the opportunity to, when we talk about commercial insurance, that's a very wide, that's just as much as saying, personal side and then commercial side. When you cover commercial exposures, you can do any type of business. So we were initially working with a lot of nonprofits and bookkeepers, accountants, a lot of the bigger safe, if you would, types of organizations, because we were partnered with a really big brokerage outside of, or not outside, in Chicago. We worked remote. And so I first heard about in trucking because I had an opportunity to meet a lady that she was kind of trying it out. She was learning herself just kind of the rules and regulations about FMCSA. And she was like, yeah, have you looked at those premiums? Have you thought about getting into this? It's a great opportunity if you're trying to do something more than just this job, because that's really what working with the other brokerage was. It was, a 9 to 5. And so I was like, well, tell me a little bit more about it. And so as she was sharing some information, I got on the internet and start researching. So I found, of course, FMCSA, but then I just start seeing, all the websites that talked about trucking. I start seeing, running across different people. And my sister's husband is actually a trucker. So start asking him 1,000,001 questions. And it was just like, so tell us what this looks like. And is it just big trucks? And so that was kind of a quick dip into the transportation world. Fast forward, we were able, well, I found from again just searching on the internet an opportunity to be an independent contractor with a remote agency that was based out of New York. So I had applied and said, hey, let me just kind of go in there. And it was a sales position, and that's kind of the thing with sales. You sell one thing, you can sell anything.
Anything.
And so it was just learning the product. And so got in there. It was a startup and was able to really get a lot of background into how some of this stuff worked. And I continued my education in transportation specific stuff, because you can go pretty deep into just the transportation space. And kind of what made us pivot, because just as life kind of happened. So I was with this independent contractor position for a couple months, and then Precious was tired of what she was doing, and I said, hey, come on over.
And so Precious is your sister.
Precious is my sister.
Okay.
Yes. And so I said, come on over. And we do that. We've done that kind of, that's what sisters do, right? And we tell each other about opportunities. And so I shared it with her, and she came on actually as our VP of sales for this organization. But what I really started noticing, because I was just again on that sales part, our service department was a totally different story. And I've always been sensitive as a former educator on just what things look like very holistically. That one side of the table or something has like that direct impact on what the other side, the outcomes become. And so I was noticing we were selling policies, but we weren't really great at service. People were complaining about not getting stuff in a timely manner, that, their rates were going up because things weren't being explained. And so I was like, wow, I can't rely just on what the truckers say they want, but I have to be knowledgeable on what they truly need and give them the option and kind of do this consultative thing. And so because it was a conflict of interest being with that other agency, I had to create a marketing firm in which to do consulting on some of those regs and the compliance, the back office. So that's kind of what started first and what I got out there to be known as. So like I said, we did our paperwork kind of at that time of, hey, if this is how this startup agency was able to go, and this is, because she was able to see the back office, and she's like, we could do this. And I'm like, we can't really do this just yet. We don't have these things set up. But she starts setting it up paperwork wise. And so, we set that up. And then it was just really that the agency wasn't caring or taking care of the people that was there. And as a salesperson, you can't go out there with that negative reputation. That really kills everything. And so, I knew my bigger aspirations was to stay in this business long term. It didn't have to be with this particular agency. And so we really just was kind of pushed out at that point because we wanted to take better care of the clients that we brought to the agency. And so we started our own.
So it was all about taking care of the people that you guys were serving.
Absolutely, because it's really such, even though it's a huge industry, our corner of it is very tight. People talk. And even if it's just information and perceptions, sometimes people get mad at you because you didn't offer the lowest price or you didn't give them their way. That's understandable because unfortunately, someone's not really going to share all that out there.
Right.
But if we weren't keeping, if we weren't being ethical and honest and upfront with our clients, spending that time in education, that was going to be the bigger piece that would have come back around to basically bite us in the butt.
So it sounds like really building that relationship between yourselves and your client is what really was kind of that turning point to be able to say, you know what, we need to make sure that we're doing right by our clients.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's awesome. So what would you say was the biggest, so as an entrepreneur, so now like you left the other place now to do your business full time?
Correct.
So what would you say was the biggest struggle or the biggest challenge that you've had in business so far? Because I know getting into entrepreneurship, it's exciting, and like people are like, yes, I'm gonna be my own boss. But hold on a minute. There's some things sometimes that could be a little, a little challenging.
Absolutely. So I guess the biggest challenge was just to be able to know that I had permission to run it the way I felt like it needed to be ran. And I know that really kind of sounds like that should be the easy part. You should be able to hire, fire, make everything pink, whatever you want. It's not as easy as it sounds because you are faced with decisions. Is this of me or is this of my client? Mm-hmm. And I've been in other businesses before, one of those being a bail bonds agency. I ran it with my ex-husband for 7 years, and our mentor in that business kind of said something early on that only just now started to make sense. And it was find a customer and meet the customer's needs, actually exceed their wants. Mm-hmm. And that's where your business is. You don't go out creating a business and expecting everyone to rush to you. You meet a need out there and find your client and see who comes to you naturally, and then just service that clientele that comes to you. Wow. It keeps you from having to chase the money because it's coming to you.
Wow, that is such an important, that's a bar. That is an important note. You find the need and meet that need because the people are there needing and wanting what you provide. That's
absolutely
awesome. That's really so important in business. So can you get into some of the successes that you've had, or like the one point, have you ever gotten to a point where you're like, now this is why I do what I do? This right here, this is why I'm in this. This is why I do. So can you talk about that?
So our biggest success story, and I mean, we are actually talking about it on other platforms as well, is that we've spent $0 towards leads. Okay. That's very uncommon in this industry.
That's true.
Because much like real estate agents, insurance companies are told to buy all these leads. You got to keep this flow, go out there and kiss all the babies and stuff like that. And we didn't have to. We didn't have to because of that strategy I just said before. We saw the need to have other businesses want to support those that look like them. And unfortunately, we are very few and far in between. Yes. A woman-run insurance agency that is its own brokerage is very few and far between. And to where that could be looked at as a disadvantage, we used it as an advantage because our main clientele, although it's our drivers tend to be male, and this was even my mindset, and this is kind of where I got all this from the bail bonds. My mentor, was just kind of telling us we had to toughen up and this and that. And I said, why? I'm a woman in a male dominated industry. And my true client are the women that are being called and brought and told. They're the centers of influence of how to help this defendants get out of jail.
Right.
Most guys, and this is very generalized, mm-hmm. but someone who's gotten themselves in some trouble aren't calling their friends. They're calling their mamas, their girlfriends, their wives. Hey baby, hey. Help me out. And where do those women go?
Yeah.
They need to find someone who's going to have compassion versus judgment. When they have to say, hey, little boo, he's in, a little hot water again. Can I talk to you? And you not judge me, you not condemn me for me being his person to help him in this situation. Same with truckers. Although a lot of the drivers, and this is a male dominated industry, we have a lot of female drivers as clients, but our true clientele are the women who are centers of influence to these companies. And women, we're, like you said, the name of your podcast, I mean, we are very influential.
Out here. Mm-hmm.
We're out here with our own companies, supporting companies, and that's a big place. I want to spend just a few seconds to talk about that. Some
Absolutely.
people think a dispatcher is, oh, like a glorified secretary, but even that word secretary, some people think is a negative connotation. It means you're submissive, you're kind of just waiting to support. If someone doesn't have strong support, they can't shine, they can't do the things they do.
That's
They
it.
are handicapped a lot of times to move forward. So just because you're the head, you have to have a strong neck.
That's
And
it.
so that's that whole thing right there. That center of influence, I don't want anyone to walk away and say, I'm just this. No, you are that. And
Exactly.
that means a lot. So I wanted to share.
Exactly. You literally took the thought right out of my brain as you were talking. I grew up in the church, and so I heard a minister say one time, the man might be the head, but the woman is the neck, and without the neck, the head really, can't do much. It's not attached to the body. It can't turn. It can't look, and so the
Absolutely.
role of women in this industry, in a company, even if we are not running the entire company, even if we're running a department or if we're running a project, like our influence is absolutely important and paramount to the success of whatever it is that we are in that position to fulfill. So
Absolutely.
that's a really great point that you brought out. And it's sometimes, as you mentioned before, when you were in the bail bonds business with your ex-husband, how your mentor was saying, "Oh, you got to be tough," and you're like, "But I'm a woman. Like this is not how I am." Like really being in position to serve those, to meet that need that you said where that gap was, you fit right in because, as you said so aptly, when people find themselves in situation is big mama and them that they're calling, not
Mhm.
necessarily their friends.
I,
So
I used to tell my mentor, I said, think of secret deodorant, right? Strong enough for a man, but it's made for a woman.
mhm,
So my strength looks different than yours. And
exactly.
ask any man, a lot of times they're in awe of a woman's strength.
Mhm,
They're like, okay, brawn can be measured by I can bench 250. My muscles are look like this. It's a very outward appearance. Yes, you can have that internal strength, that many men possess too. I'm not taking that away from them.
exactly.
But women, we possess that internal strength a lot of times, first and foremost, to be that center, that grounding, that nurturing spirit
Mhm,
of, no matter what goes wrong, and you can come back home.
exactly.
I always heard that it was the best compliment a man can pay to a woman by saying that you make me feel like I'm at home. You're my
Mhm,
centering and grounding place, because that means I can come back and start again, from
right.
the direction and what you offer here for me. So the same with business.
Yeah.
Same with business.
It's so true. A lot of times a lot of times as women, we do find ourselves in situations where we're timid or we're afraid to like be our full and true authentic selves because we don't want to make anyone else feel threatened or feel as if we're being too aggressive or and so we sometimes might tend to play small or play down ourselves, and it's so important to remember, like it's so important to just be who you are, and people will truly appreciate that, like what you bring to the industry with your clients in the insurance space. um I'm sure that it's much appreciated because the angle that the approach that you would take is probably different than what another company would take towards that.
Absolutely. We hope so anyway.
Yes. So for the women out there that may be contemplating a career shift, because it sounds as if you've had a few career shifts, there could be that fear and that anxiety within us, like, should I do this? Should I, and we second guess ourselves a lot, unfortunately. And so, can you speak to that woman who might be out there? She might be in a situation where she's like, I really want to do something different. This company is not up to the integrity that I would like to function in, or whatever the case may be. What advice would you have for her?
Great question. To really get down to what it is you're looking for, because until you identify your destination, you can't really plot out a path,
Mm.
and so whether you need at this time, because we like to always kind of aspire for those higher, I just want everyone to be happy. I get it. And that's the ultimate goal. But if today I need more money, call it that. If you are not working a job that's financially satisfying for you, to where you can live the lifestyle that you need to take care of your kids, you're not always robbing Peter to pay Paul, then let that uncomfortableness propel you to go ahead and go back to school, finish school, do a certification, go into a sales position that may not offer a security bottom. Like I said, as an independent contractor, if I didn't make a sale, there was no money to be shared. So I put myself in a very vulnerable situation because I wanted the change. And
Mm.
so visiting what it is you truly want in the order in which you want it, because I knew if I can get into a better financial situation, that will be one of those check boxes of what gives me that gives me that satisfaction. The financial situation will alleviate the need to have to go and rush and get another job, be away from my family, which was the bigger thing.
Mm.
I wanted more time with my family. That's how I got into education. I worked a job. It was a good job, but I was never really home. And I had just gotten married. I had a young son at the time, and I had to decide, what can I do to change my career to better align to what it was I wanted? And what I wanted was to be home and with my child as his school schedule allowed. So I had a degree. I went and got an alt certification, went to school, online, and I had to do 3 months with no pay in order to do an accelerated program so I can get my certification quicker, because I knew I couldn't go another year. I couldn't put it off any longer.
Mm.
Not seeing them was anti the money that was coming in.
Not even worth it.
Not even worth it. So for anyone looking to make a career change, I know it's scary because it's what you put into it, but you'll be surprised how many of those skills, because it's you ultimately, it's
Mm.
that application ultimately that makes it, a talent. You can be talented. I have a friend. She's oh, how tall is she? She's right at 6 feet. I'm short, so anyone over 5'7", I'm looking like, whoa. I'm 5'4", but she's 6 feet. And everybody, as we would go out, you play basketball? She's like, I can't. I don't even know how. I
Wow.
don't do that. And they're like, but you're tall. Just because it may be where you can have a particular talent, what it looks like is a talent. I learned that the word talent, a talent is just kind of the beginning. It's a tool. To use that talent is where the abilities come out.
Yeah.
You may have like Spud Webb, and I'm dating myself severely with that, right? Where he was one of the shortest players in the NBA at 5'2". Was it 5'2", 5'4"? And he was doing his thing. He
Mhm.
was out there. He didn't have that height advantage, but he made up for it, with his true talent of making things work. And so that's what I encourage everyone who's looking at changing careers. Analyze what it is that you want out of that
Mhm.
change, because don't just change because it was hard, because I hate to tell you, it's going to be hard in a different level elsewhere too.
That's a
And
fact.
I know a lot of people that kind of go back to education. Well, let me collect the degrees. Do you plan to use them? Is my thing. Because if you're not using them, what did you do that for? You just kind of went and invested into something that is a pretty expensive, picture on the wall with your name
Mhm.
on it. Are you using it? So again, using your talents that are given to you by God first and foremost, and perfecting your craft by knowing what it is that brings you joy and that you can bring to your next opportunity.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, I heard you say it's important to find clarity. First of all, define why do you want to do this?
Mhm.
Your why, why why do you want to do this? And then, what is it that you want to actually get into, right? And then you also mentioned about skills and like finding the transferable skills that you may have, like that you may be utilizing on your job,
Mhm.
and use those skills to, or develop those skills to help you in your business as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
So if
Absolutely.
you were to give like three steps for someone, like once they're done listening to this podcast, for them to say, you know what, this, I think that like I'm already in insurance, so that's something that I know, or I really want to get in and get a piece of this pie within the trucking industry. What are some steps that you would say, like maybe 3 to 5 steps that a person, once they get off this, once this podcast is over, like what can they do? What would come next?
So the first thing into getting into trucking is to really find out what trucking is.
Mhm.
And even if it's that stark realization, and it's going to sound really basic, of walking next to a semi truck, look at how big and massive that 33,000 plus pound vehicle is. By contrast, your car, let's just say car versus SUV,
Mhm.
but a car is probably around 3 or 4. In that area right there, less than 10,000 for sure, because your cargo vans are there. But 33,000 pounds isn't a toy.
Right.
And I think that was a very humbling thing. We went, my sister and I, with that other agency, went to the Great American Trucking Show when it was in Dallas and got to see the trucks. And like I said, that wasn't a big thing for her because her husband's a trucker. She's seen it, she's rode with him a couple times. But to me, it made what was on pen and paper on a computer screen a reality.
Wow.
I'm sitting over here getting frustrated because so and so didn't have their money, but wow, I'm asking for thousands of dollars outside of what they may have to have done to get that unit.
Mhm.
So first and foremost, get some reality to it.
Right.
You're going to be seeing all this stuff on YouTube, and it's going to look almost to a certain degree glamorous. Oh
Mm.
yeah, because you can make $5,000 to $6,000 a week. Is
Mhm.
that a real number? Is that a reality? Yes, it is. But is that something someone as a brand new person with no prior experience, no knowledge of the lanes, all these other things can
Mhm.
realistically earn in their first month? Absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely not. And
You're
if
gonna
any
need to surround yourself with some professionals.
Yes, I mean, you basically had to, I don't even know, the lotto would have been better odds if that was happening to you. And that's not meant to discourage anyone, but it's just meant to say you're going to have to build up to those levels.
Mm.
So second step after making it a reality is decide on your action plan. Truly decide why you want to get into trucking, and it can't be just because it makes a lot of money, because you're going to end up spending a lot of money in pursuit of the money you thought it was going to get you.
That's a fact.
So people, statistically, the failure rate for new trucking companies is 70%
Mhm.
don't make it to the end of the first year. So if you're saving up your life savings, you turning in your 401k as you're transitioning from, careers to buy a truck, and you are banking everything to make that happen, you can make it happen, but you have to be fully serious about everything you're going to need to do in becoming profitable as soon as possible,
Mhm.
because you don't want to be upside down. You don't want to have to put in double the money as you go on through the year, but you're gonna struggle, and it's the natural learning curve in this industry, to pass that first year. um Third step is to make sure that even though it's going to be tempting to pay someone to do something for you need to know what it is you're paying for. So understanding your insurance policy, understanding if you have someone helping you with your authority, what questions did they truly answer on your behalf? Because when it comes down to it, you're the one that is accountable for that. If they clicked the little box that said you have not had bankruptcies in the past year and you never told them no such thing, and it gets discovered that you have a bankruptcy just last month, that changes the dynamic. And so there's a lot of people that kind of are helping folks do paperwork because it's such a pressure. It's a lot of paperwork, I'll tell you that. But it would really benefit you to know what paperwork and why. And if you truly need help in that, then you get help. But know why you're needing help, and what you're paying for. So I would just kind of stop at those three because those three will take you where you need right there.
Wow. Wow. Well, Ladda, thank you so much for sharing all of these gems with us. It's just like I just getting into the industry, it could be a little bit daunting. And I remember when we first just started, like in our first year, like I used to be a pre-K teacher. So literally, and at the time when the company started, we really I was still working. And so I had no clue about this. And so even now I'm still learning and I'm still building relationships and everything like that. And so um those tips that you gave is super, super important. Like just take some time before you quit your job. Nobody's telling you to go quit your job. Before you do any of that, to really study and learn what the different lingos mean, what an actual dispatcher does, because really and truly there are so many different roles that feed this industry.
Absolutely.
And the paperwork, as you mentioned, is definitely something that a lot of truckers, from what I've seen and heard, they don't really want to be bothered with all of that. They want somebody to take care of their paperwork, because that detail orientedness of, like, all of the things that go into that may not necessarily be something that they are up for. And so there's definitely a need for these different areas to be filled. There's a few gaps there. So one more question, just before we go. When it comes to, you had mentioned earlier that you had made some of the career changes and the decisions that you've made because you wanted more time with family and you wanted to kind of be there for your children. Can you just talk about that for a little bit, just to, like, how were you able to really balance being an entrepreneur, running your business, and also fulfilling your role in the home as mom and everything else?
Right. That's a big one right there. And sometimes I'm like, am I doing it right? I mean,
Girl.
that's going to be the constant and forever question. I've just
Yes.
really been blessed. I have two boys. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 11.
Mhm.
And he just popped up behind me. I'm a single parent. As I said, went through a marriage and, things and life happens and such. And so this transition, has always been scary because I kept wondering, have I sacrificed things that my children are entitled to? And I'm really big on that. I just want to give them the world and all that means, my time, my attention, resources, just everything I can physically do, And so I question that a lot, but I also had to trust them, as my son will tell you. Look, I'm sorry. As the 11-year-old will tell you, I had to trust them, and even my oldest son. It's such a blessing too to be going through single parenthood with your children, and I even would dare say children of the opposite sex, because you can talk some things out to them, and they're sitting there thinking, would I do this? Would I do this? And not to kind of put all those burdens on, my oldest one's shoulders to be the man of the house and all this other stuff. But I think growing up the way we did, he was able to see mom continue to, really work.
Mhm.
Mom's, went for what she wanted to do for us. And that's why I'm really big on having those boundaries with time.
Yeah.
I could be prospecting, and sometimes I say, am I missing out on business by not doing, these rooms and all that stuff at night? But then I have to remember I'm in an industry too that is much like banking.
Mhm.
Even if I had an application done at 8 o'clock at night, what answers can I give them? Because a lot of my underwriters work a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Mhm.
So even though I can have a head start on the next day, why not just start everything the next day? You
Wow.
know?
Wow.
And so creating those boundaries and not forcing yourself. Can we always do another video? Can we always, create flyers and stuff? We can. But what about the time where you're sitting down eating dinner with your family? Can you
And
replace that?
no, it's wow, that is such a valuable perspective because I'm not gonna lie, like I literally struggle with that
Mm,
also. Like I would be working on something all day and I tell my I have two girls, 13 and 10. And I tell them they have to be off the computer by 5 o'clock, but I still be on the computer working,
Oh, wow,
you
mom.
know? And so it's like, wait a minute. So that is such a valuable perspective. Like we literally can't get that time back. And why push and try to, because you know what? I realized I was up till after 2 working on a carrier packet and I still didn't send it until
Mm.
today.
Oh,
So I
wow.
might as well had just do exactly what you just said. And so that is a really valuable perspective. Like,
When you start fresh a lot of times too, and you'll know your own rhythm, especially
mhm,
as a self-employed person, to where there is no clock. You don't get any bonus points or
yeah,
extra pay for staying long. So why
yeah.
not make it short? Why not capitalize on your natural energy? On, if you're a morning person, go ahead and do your reading and prep for the morning. If you're an evening person, do it then when the phones stop ringing. So
Mm,
you're going to find like a natural order and lean into that. A lot of people tell you you need to answer the emails. That's a distractor too. Answering emails as they come in,
mm.
because they'll always keep coming in. And I'm bad. And look, I'm a work in progress, but I have it on my phone and I see it, but I have to resist the urge to reply.
Mm,
And I said, okay, if I see it, I could think about it, and I'll think about how I'll answer it tomorrow. Or I've gotten to a place to where if it's really just information that's right there and I happen to be in front of the computer doing something, I'll type the email, but I don't send it. I leave it in draft mode so then I can send it during business hours, because you don't want to create any inconsistencies of when someone can reach out to you. If you
mm.
wanted to take an early day, take an early day, but be consistent. Don't kind of penalize your client. Be like, I'm off on Friday at 2. No, I
Right,
didn't know.
right,
you know, I
right.
didn't know. So yeah, just kind of, and it comes kind of I actually took a course on learning how to better manage and organize
Mhm.
your time, and they taught some of those nuggets about feeding into your natural rhythm of when you're most productive. And don't force it. If you're not a night person and you find yourself having to read something, don't do it. You're torturing yourself. You ain't remembered nothing you read.
That's a fact.
Just give it till tomorrow, revisit it,
'Cause yeah, sometimes I think it might be fear of missing out or like we put so much pressure on ourselves
hmm
to, get it done. And sometimes really take a deep breath and calm down.
hmm
You got this. It's gonna be okay.
Yes,
One foot in front
absolutely.
of the other. We eat an elephant one bite at a time.
One
We
bite at a time.
chew, you know, and before you know it, like it's done. So okay, awesome. So we're about to wrap up. So I want you to think of something really profound to end with, because I'll give you the last word. Just wanted to get into what some of my takeaways were, like finding clarity in what you want to do as a woman, like getting back to who you are,
Mhm.
and really finding your why is so important.
Mhm.
And not just doing things for the sake of doing, not just doing something just for the sake of doing. Oh, let me go back to school and get this certification or this degree just because. Like, why are you really doing it?
Mhm.
Let's see. Is this going in the direction that is gonna fulfill you as an individual, as well as accent your zone of genius, like who you really are as a
I
person.
love that zone of genius.
Yes. And then also like leaning into taking your time, like being honoring like your rhythms, right?
Mhm.
We're talking about honoring your rhythms. And if you're a morning person, then listen, leave it till the next morning where you're fresh and you'll probably have more ideas. You sleep on it and you wake up, that's really profound to really make sure you're creating those boundaries as working women, as women who run companies and entrepreneurs. It's so important to keep that balance. So I really have gotten so much from our conversation today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come onto the Lady Trucking CEO podcast. And so I'm gonna throw it on over to you. Let's so you can wrap us up and take us out.
Sure. So kind of my profound thought, and it's one of those that was definitely bought through blood, sweat, and tears, is knowing that you don't have to do it all by yourself. As you were mentioning, trying to make sure as a solopreneur, it feels like if it's not you, it doesn't get done. And
Mm.
that carries over to your life, and your other roles as a mother, sister, daughter, just a human being.
Mm.
You feel like all this weight is on your shoulder because without this being done, it just doesn't get done. And one of those things, and I love that quote about done is better than perfect, because that spoke to me early on. And like I said, that was one of those lessons bought, and it was bought through failed relationships. It was bought through wasted money,
Wow.
where I spent time. Like I said, I don't say anything that I hadn't done. I've purchased a lot of courses throughout my life. And what am I truly using? Now, knowledge is good wherever you get it, but don't feel like you have to pay premium for it, because experience and immersion is actually some of the better ways that you learn.
Mm.
And so just jumping out there, asking questions, and building being transparent that you don't know but you're willing to learn. Show me where to find this. Finding people that will support you in those things. I'm an insurance person. I can't tell you all the parts of a truck, but you know what, I have people that I've surrounded myself with that can. And I have no conflict of interest, because one of the people is actually an insurance person. And so I don't ever feel a certain way if someone asks very technical questions, that I'll send this lead to, the person that can just as quickly offer them an insurance policy too, as well as tell them about, the parts of the truck that they needed. But with surrounding yourself with good people, people of integrity, that hasn't happened. They send the person right back to me to do the insurance quote. And so that's really important and vital to your relationships in trucking, because you're going to have people that say they do it all, but I would challenge what you did well.
Yes.
And there's so much here for all of us to eat. Why be greedy?
Okay.
If I can do insurance and then refer you to dispatching, even if I know about dispatching, I want you to be of better service. I want this person to have a more excellent experience than what I can do, because my focus is somewhere else. You have to think bigger and broader for your clients, and the love comes back. And I think that's what God does for us. When you think outside of your immediate needs, your needs are automatically covered. You
Mm.
won't need to want for anything. And as I said earlier, we have not had to pay a single dime for leads. Now, if I called, appreciation gifts, or if I called support and marketing my money towards that, yeah, we've paid that. But that came in those forms.
Right.
I was able to honor someone versus being charged to talk to them.
Got it.
So that's my closing remark.
Well, thank you so much. Can you just let the people know how they can contact you? You can tell us your IG, like, tell us about your business so that we can get in touch with you.
Sure. I know my name is kind of unique, and I kind of put my full name out there for a very deliberate reason. My first name, most people never really know too many Laddas unless you are in Thailand, and that's where my name comes from. So it's Ladda Love, Ladda, Love Hawkins. You could just type that in. I'm pretty sure I'm probably the person that shows up on Facebook for you. But my company's website is LRMC for Lovejoy Risk Management Corp. Trucking. So lrmctrucking.com. That's where it's going to take you to our online application if you needed a quote.
Don't you have a Facebook group? People can hit you up through your Facebook group, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a
so like I said, finding me on Facebook, Messenger is a great way to reach me. And the group is the Minority Women in Logistics Facebook group. Okay. And so, you can join our community.
And are you on Instagram?
I am, and I think my name is Ladda Love Trucking. I think that's who I am there. Again, I'm probably one of the few Ladda Love Hawkins out there. There's actually quite a few Laddas. Like I said, the name is from Thailand and it's a common name, but the whole combination, I haven't found too many others. So,
so do you have so you told us about your website and your Facebook group. Ladda, thank you so much. Ladda Love Hawkins, thank you so much for your time. And this has been really eye-opening and just really a great time. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I'll see you. I'm in the Facebook group, so I'll be seeing you. You take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.